right, so let's take our sourdough recipe that we had done before and alter it slightly to make a focaccia. So the first step on this is to take our starter, which I fed last night. It's nice and thick and kind of angry, which smells pretty gross, but that's kind of the point. And I'm basically just dumping a bunch of starter in. Probably about half, maybe a little more. So that's what I've got left. Certainly enough to feed it tonight and it'll be happy. Okay. And then normally when we do a sourdough, I put in 1.5 cups of water, of warm water. I'm going to put in 1 cup of warm water, and then I made a pesto, which I realized in the video I forgot to add the Parmesan, so I added it afterwards. But I'm gonna add this with some more olive oil as my other half cup, because focaccia is kind of an oilier dough. So with the water, you want to make sure it's hot or warm, but not hot. Obviously, if this is too hot, it will kill the yeast. I'm going to get that mixed in. And it's not going to dissolve because it literally doesn't dissolve, but basically you wanted to get it as thoroughly mixed as possible. And so I'm going to scrape my homemade basil or pesto in there. And obviously if you look online, there's a billion variations of pesto. You can make yours however you want. This is my first ever pesto, so hopefully this tastes all right. I don't know, let's try a little bit. Salty, but that won't matter when I get to the bread. But because I added salt to that, I'm not adding any more salt. Okay. And then, honestly, because focaccia is an olive oil based bread, I'm going to add about 1/4 cup. I've got more olive oil if I need it, but a little more than 1/4 cup. So essentially, I replaced some of the water with olive oil compared to the regular bread, to the regular sourdough. And you can see it's kind of got, I don't know how well you can see, but it's got a little oily layer on the top. That's okay. Okay. To make sure that this has enough sugar to rise, I realized I didn't do this in my last video. I'm going to add a little bit of honey. It is the dead of winter in Western New York, so my honey managed to solidify, like recrystallize, but it'll be good enough for what I'm doing. And I'm mostly doing this to put in some sugar to help the yeast rise. I also realized that since I put lemon juice in my pesto, I can probably get away with adding the orange zest like I did last time. So I'm going to do that. So this is an orange that we stole some of the zest yesterday, but that's all right. It was for a different purpose. So, gonna get kind of a citrusy basil focaccia bread. I've actually toyed with the idea of making the same bread I did last time, which was like the cinnamon cardamom clove bread, and just making it a focaccia. I've tried various flavors in breads, and I found that the zest of citrus fruit works really well. I think the last time I made a focaccia, I used lemon zest and just dried thyme. and that works really, really nicely. But you'll notice this doesn't look anything like our last bread. It's kind of got a green swamp vibes going on. Okay. But the beginning of this recipe is going to be exactly the same. So to this, we're going to add 3 cups of flour. So that's a half cup, up to 1 cup, and I tend to stir every cup. And you, if I remember correctly, the last time I made a focaccia, you end up with kind of a lighter, fluffier consistency just because of the olive oil in there. So it's not exactly the same as it was before. It smells amazing. So that's 1.5. Up to 2 cups. Mix that in. And again, this is that same mixing thing I used in the last video. This is coming together really nicely. And when I get to 3 cups, I can still adjust things as I need to. But at the end of 3 cups, it should be completely combined and should be at least a little bit wet. So no dry spots, basically. Two and a half. Three cups. Okay. And basically I'm going to stir that in. Try not to make a mess because it's getting full. And I just use the spoon for everything. You could reach your hands in there and knead it, but the spoon does a good job. Just takes a little bit more time. You can see it is really dry looking right now. Sorry, I keep blocking the light. I want to, the inside of this is wet, and that's what I want to expose to the flour. And if I need to, I can add a little bit more water, which I may need to for this one. I'm kind of winging a recipe here. Yeah, I'm gonna add some more water. Added about 1/3 cup of water. But this should helpfully mix everything, and if I need to, I can always add more flour. I may just end up with more bread. That's okay. But this is kind of our last chance to adjust things. Once we get past this first mixing step, you're pretty committed to whatever you've added. But a focaccia is supposed to be kind of a wetter dough, so I'm not really all that worried about it being overly wet, but I am definitely worried about it being overly dry. You can see it's kind of wet, doughy consistency. Yeah, adding the water was the right idea. All right, but we have a pretty looking dough, should be good. And then basically I'm gonna get a wet towel, cover this up and put it in the oven with some boiling water to create a humid, hot environment. I'm gonna leave this for an hour, then we'll come back and do the next video. All right, thanks.